Welcome to the show, everyone. I have a great guest with me today and such divine timing. This story is going to be so special. It's special to me, and I can't wait to share what Cristhian has to offer you. So first, welcome to the show, Cristhian.
Hi, JJ. Thank you for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be of service. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I met Cristhian and his lovely girlfriend, Christina, at Bruce Lipton's event in Arizona in August. I believe it was August, right? And, I thought I was going to just meet Dr. Bruce and to, I don't know, network a little bit, I guess, with him. And of course, I went open to whatever was going to happen. And from the show that we talked about with Dr. Nasha about the therapeutic use of psychedelics for emotional breakthroughs, I had recommended that a lot of you watch How to Change Your Mind from Michael Pollan. It's a Netflix series. It's 4 episodes, and he reviews 4 different medicines, plant medicines on that series. He starts with, I think, LSD, then MDMA, then psilocybin, which is mushrooms, and then peyote. And Doug and I had watched it in Colorado maybe a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I was just sort of intuitively feeling into what I was interested in, what I was drawn to. I know people that do different things, and I knew what my body was calling for. And so I thought LSD, sure, maybe I'd try that. MDMA, didn't have any interest in that. And then it got to psilocybin, and I was very interested in the mushroom. And I got to peyote. And peyote, I was like, oh, I would do peyote. But what Michael Pollan says in the show is it's very tribal, and the Indians, it's a very sacred plant that is not, there's not enough of it for everyone to be going after it. And so basically he says, where he teaches you all about it, the history of it and what's happened and how they use it in ceremony. It's legal in the church, in the tribes, but he basically says, don't go finding it. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm ever invited, I'll say yes. And that's that. I didn't go searching for it. I just thought, all right, I will just wait until I'm invited. So here I am at Dr. Bruce Lipton's event, sitting next to Christina and Cristhian. And at the first day, Cristhian was sitting on the very end and Christina was between us. And then there was one little exercise of muscle testing we did at the end of this first day. And Christina and I partnered and we muscle tested each other. And then the next day they switched. And of course, in between the switch, I think I ran into them at dinner. I ran into them at the coffee shop. I ran into them like around town. Okay, now Sedona is not a huge place, but literally it was kind of uncanny that I kept running into them. Just them. It wasn't like the whole group of people were going to the same things. It was just the 2 of them and me. So now we get to the second day, and there's a little bit more, not a heck of a lot, but a little bit more muscle testing and an exercise that Dr. Bruce Lipton taught us, and Cristhian and I partnered on that. And by the end, we just started chatting about what he did. And he told me he was a shaman and that he works with certain plant medicines. And I said, oh, and I told him my story. And I said, well, if I'm ever invited, I'll say yes. And he turned to me and said, well, you're invited. I said, well, then yes. so that is how our relationship started. And I thought, oh, I didn't go to Arizona for Dr. Bruce Lipton. Well, I did, but I went to meet Cristhian and Christina. So welcome to the show. Since that time, I have participated in a sacred ceremony with Cristhian, and we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to share with you who he is. And so, Cristhian, please tell everybody, if you are listening on the podcast, you've already heard his bio. And if you're here on YouTube, you haven't, because I don't read them on YouTube. And so you know that he used to be in the Marine Corps. So you're looking at this gorgeous Peruvian man who used to be in the Marine Corps and is now a shaman. So, I mean, you kind of go, what? Like, these are not 2 things you would necessarily put together. So please, Cristhian, start at the beginning and tell us your story about how you got here.
Oh, thank you. So first of all, thank you for the beautiful introduction. I know my path towards going to the workshop was very guided. Through Christina, we had finished this grandfather ceremony, and on the way back, she said, we need to go see Dr. Bruce Lipton, and everything just aligned, and we were there. And I feel the same way, that perhaps I was not there to meet Dr. Bruce, but for that encounter that was predestined for us to come together and continue this work of service. And Christina, being the master tracker that she is, she was able to track this. She always puts me in the right place and situations. And as we sat together the first day, she said, I think you need to sit in the middle because you two need to meet each other. And I was just like, what? Okay, I trust your tracking. So that's that was a beautiful way to meet each other. So I feel very blessed to have crossed paths with you, and so excited for what's to unfold. My path started in Peru. I was a young boy. My father came to the US. My whole side of the family came to the US when I was about 7 years old. My parents had me very young, right after high school, and I know they had a lot of struggles to raise me. So I pretty much grew up on my own. I was very invested in studying and learning, and I had asthma as a child. So I dealt with suffocating. I had to sleep standing up. I never, didn't have money for any other medicine or things like that. So I struggled my whole childhood, and I remember thinking, God, if this is all there is to life, just take me. And I remember seeing this shiny angel-like being like that showed up, and that's it. And I fell asleep right before I fell asleep. And then after that, I had this inspiration to start running and playing soccer because I was almost 10 and all my friends were doing that and I couldn't even play with my friends. So all of a sudden I became motivated, and a couple of years later, all of my symptoms were gone. So it was beautiful. And so as I was growing up, my grandmother adopted me when I was a child, fortunately for me, and she was able to bring me here to the US. So when I first landed here at the age of 16, I didn't speak the language. I only came with the clothes that I was wearing. And the vision of my family, we were a very humble family. It's like work hard, like, hey, my first job was like washing dishes and taking the trash out at IBM. And so I realized that there was no future there for me. So I decided that after a couple of years of high school, I was going to join the Marine Corps. So this was in 2001. And I went to boot camp in July 2001. So right before I graduated boot camp, September 11 happened. So everything changed. I was just going there to maybe get an education and come out, but I became so motivated in that kind of path of service. So I was deployed a couple of times. I served for 14 years. And on my last deployment, weird accident, I was supposed to go to Afghanistan. They pulled me back because I had learned so many tools while I was there. I mean, I was infantry. I built helicopter engines. I was the training NCO. I ran the pistol range, the rifle range, anything that they would say like, hey, like we need somebody to go learn how to do this. I would jump on it, And my last job was paralegal because I was working towards becoming an officer, and I wanted to go to JAG to be a JAG officer. And so they happened to deploy me right before I took my law SAT. And I found myself over there, and I was just training one day. We were running and we get hit by this sandstorm. It's 130 degrees in Kuwait. I ended up staying there because they needed a senior paralegal there. So my knee buckled under the storm because I was trying to get back to the barracks, and it went the other way. So I tore my knee up pretty bad. If I would have failed, I would have been okay. But my ego was like, no, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of everyone. So my knee buckled. Long story short, I ended up in El Paso, Texas at the Wounded Warrior Battalion because the accident happened overseas, and the process is you need to come back through the Wounded Warrior. So I got to spend some months around all of these young men and women that got blown up and got to live with them. And it broke me inside because in my mind, I was, this mighty hero, and we're serving and we're saving the world and all of these things. I felt like I was invincible, but I got to face the karma of training so many young and women to go to war, and I couldn't take it. My heart couldn't take it. It was the first time I saw people checking out, like there was no one in their souls. And I'm watching these young men and women that can't go home. They're begging pretty much to get released and get their benefits. Not sure why people were taking so long for that to happen, but I saw a whole nother side that I was not okay with, and it made me like lose my faith in so many things once again. So I dropped to my knee, I remember, and I asked God again, God, like this can't be. There's all there is to life, and I don't know why my mechanics back then was just take me, like I'm done, right? And it was the same thing, but my request was so strong that like show me a different way to get somebody's soul together, because taking 10, 15 pills 3-4 times a day is not the solution. And it broke my heart to see these young men and women with their family there, and there was no one there. And that was the saddest thing that I ever seen. It just broke my heart so much. And literally the next day, what happened was I started to hear things and see things, and electronics would would be malfunctioning. And I didn't believe in any of this stuff. Like I was raised very Catholic, very religious. I didn't even know that my family, a few lineages before they were shamans. This came much later in the process. And so in doing that prayer, like everything that I thought was real became blurry. There was a lot of lines, and I ended up having a reading by a psychic medium, and she said like, hey, listen, something has awakened in you, and here's this spiritual teacher, and she says that you need to return to your shamanic lineage of Peru. She said, I would teach you, but I have been initiated in the North American traditions, and they say that they're not going to leave you alone until you return home. And I was thinking, wow, I just had a baby. My knee's still healing. I'm going to have to go to Peru. How do I do this? And I have been wanting to go on a vision quest to Joshua Tree with psilocybin as well, because this friend of mine who also dealt with a lot of PTSD wanted to free himself, and he bailed on me twice. But I knew I had a call to Joshua Tree. And so I went and Googled Peruvian shamanic lineages in the US. And the next day I came across the work of that same day, Dr. Alberto Violdo, founder of the Four Winds. And the class to begin the course started the next day. So I had a very quick decision to make. Didn't have time to think about it. And I was calling the retreat center because they told me, I explained everything that was happening to me at the time. And they said, we would love to have you here. Please come, but you need to call the retreat center to make sure they have room for you. So in doing so, they called me 3 hours before the course was starting. And I just threw all my stuff. My current partner at the time was having a hard time with me leaving so soon. She was working, had a baby, but fortunately for me, she decided to be supportive at the time and said, I got it, just go do your thing. And I was able to meet Dr. Alberto Violdo, and we became close friends and worked closely since then. But that's my story and how I started my journey. And I remember being outside paying to get in, and I walked in, and I remember smelling the smell of the Florida water, the spirit water. And later I found out that my grandmother used to use this for everything because she was from the San Pedro shaman lineages of the northern coast of Peru, where my ancestors come from. And when I smelled that, I knew I was home. I was like, I've arrived. This is what my soul's been searching my whole life. And that started my path roughly about 10 years ago, close to 11 years ago.
Now, I know that there are a lot of different services that you provide as a shaman. Do you want to list some of what they are?
Yes, of course. Like my whole work revolves around the illumination, which it's the technique that we use to delete, erase, or permanently shift belief systems, soul wounds, traumas, and it creates permanent changes. And those are things that we can do in a one-on-one session. During the session, I address several things depending on what's going on with the person. Usually, if somebody's dealing with heavy addictions or things like that, they tend to have intrusive energies that need to be removed. Some people compare it to an exorcism. I don't judge nor label energies. To me, they're just energies that shouldn't be with a person. I work with soul retrievals, removing family curses, ancestral disease that gets passed down through generations, core cutting, destiny retrievals. We can do deconstruction of your timeline, like the last 10 years, the first 10 years. We can do shamanic journeys and so many tools that I would spend a lot of times listing them here, because not only did I work with the Four Winds, but I learned so many techniques from Don Oscar Miro Quesada and other shamanic teachers, as well as other master teachers from other traditions like Siddha traditions and Sufi traditions. And I have received a lot of empowerments and things like that are so helpful. And I feel like my time in the military was so essential for my work here, because it taught me about discipline and commitment and just showing up, and also tracking, because a lot of tracking and, the military is a lot about being able to observe somebody's patterns and deconstruct them completely from the person that they are, and then you build them again, right? But now you're creating these machines to go kill and be killed, right? To respond to you with a snap of a finger, right? And so to me, is so beneficial because it allows me to observe people's patterns and programs so fast. And what's the quickest way to disrupt that so that we can rebuild it? But this time is in service to what they want and their highest destiny. I also facilitate grandfather ceremonies, Wachuma ceremonies, as well as lead expeditions to Peru once a year. We go to all the sacred sites with all the elder Quero shamans, and we do initiations, empowerments, blessing ceremonies at a lot of the sacred temples. We go visit Machu Picchu. And the last couple of nights, we go to the Holy Mountain, the mountain of Alzangate, which is the grandfather mountain of the lineage over there. And we spend 2 nights camping out there at the jaguar, female jaguar and male jaguar lagoons, where the higher initiations for the elder shamans used to happen to re-empower everyone and connect them with their highest destiny, the return to their magic.
So that will all be listed on the show notes in terms of Cristhian. And I'm going to give you the link to his website, of course. And you're welcome to reach out and ask him about any of that. What I want to talk about today is what happened when I joined Cristhian for a sacred medicine journey. And I want to talk about the differences between, and you're going to be hearing a little bit more of it as we continue on the podcast, in terms of people that are coming and having experiences, because while it's not a fad and it's backed by, a lot of science, and again, Michael Pollan's book and his 4-part Netflix series, and Harvard's been doing studies using psychedelics to help people with PTSD and trauma and releasing addiction. So this is not new, but for some of you, it might be really new. And for some of you that are super control freaks, it scares the shit out of you. And, which is how I know I'm not a control freak, quite honestly, because I never was interested in any of it until Nation and I had this conversation once, and she's like, "I'm surprised you haven't done any of it." And I'm like, "Well, why would I? I just didn't know why I would be doing it." I saw people doing things like MDMA recreationally, which is ecstasy, and I had no interest in that. And I don't even have any interest in doing any of this. Like when I did my very first, and people have heard some of the story, when I did my first medicine journey here, ceremony in Ojai with a small group of people, at some point it felt like, and the dose wasn't high enough, but it felt like, again, it was a little like they wanted it to be a little social, and I didn't want it to be social. I don't care what's going on with you guys. I'm a coach and I am an intuitive, and I don't want to be messed up in your energy. I don't want to be distracted by your energy. I don't want to be pulled into your story. I'm doing this for my reasons, not because I want to laugh and play with everybody that's around necessarily. Right. So by this point, now I have done several on my own psilocybin journeys since that first journey. And I've experimented with different medicines or different strands and different methodologies, if you will. And I've had some super freaking transformative, like crossing over kind of like in spirit world, like stuff that makes you go, holy crap. Like now I understand why someone with a cancer diagnosis can be healed after a journey like that. So now I've met Cristhian, and I have put out to the universe that I am open to a sacred ceremony, and one of the options becomes peyote, which in a different form in San Pedro. Can we first talk about the difference between those two plants? I mean, they have a similar. I mean, San Pedro does have peyote in it. Is that, or mescaline? Mescaline is the actual like psilocybin. It's mescaline. Okay.
Yes. They're cousins. They're considered cousins. The San Pedro cactus was definitely used more in South America, and the peyote was used mostly in North America. But they do have similar chemical, but they interact differently. I cannot speak for peyote, because as you stated, it's an invitation. I have been invited a couple of times. Unfortunately, I was also doing my service, so I was not able to attend those ceremonies, but I am open. At this point, I can't give a review on the difference, but what I do know is that when they work with peyote, it's a little bit more intense. You're in a fire, versus the way I like to run my ceremonies is a little bit more ease, a little bit more movement, and more connection with nature.
Well, I love that about also what the recommendation for me with psilocybin was. When I watched How to Change Your Mind, what I didn't like about any of it was, at the time, I'll change my mind. I didn't like it being in a room with one person watching you and you with the mask over the eyes, because I felt like, like I got a lot of Sag in me too. Cristhian's a Sag, but I have like 3, so that whole made me feel like trapped. I'm like, oh no, I don't like that. I don't want to be trapped in a room with a person watching me with a notepad, and I have it like that does not feel good. And so I'm all about being outside also to a certain level. There's a certain dose where I think there's a certain moment where the journey has is teaching you and taking you and helping you. And it needs to be, well, for psilocybin, definitely. Like now I'm a big fan of put the eye patch on at a certain point, because it does really help go in, versus be distracted by what you're seeing and by how you're watching things change and how your brain starts to see things differently and activate different parts of your brain. Now, San Pedro, I was super curious. It's a milder form of peyote that is explained on How to Change Your Mind. And again, I would recommend everybody watch How to Change Your Mind on Netflix or read the book. And so I didn't know what to expect. I was happy to do it. And I remember that there were only a few of us at this particular ceremony. And I know you guys were considering maybe not doing it and like pushing it back just to see if you can get more people. And I thanked you profusely the entire time, because I said, no, this is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want a large group of people for that very reason, that I didn't know. It's not because I don't want to be in a group of people. It's because what I have experienced with psilocybin and how I administer psilocybin. In fact, someone had asked me, the ladies who were with us said to me, hey, do you do psilocybin gatherings? And I said, I don't. It's individual. It's one-on-one, because I want you to have that breakthrough experience. And I don't want it to be influenced by other people. Now, where we did it in San Diego was this big, beautiful house where, and thank you to Rose, because I'm sure she's going to hear this, because she's also been listening to my podcast since then. And so big, beautiful house, which had plenty of space, and inside, outside, all kinds of rooms, upstairs, downstairs. And I told Christian, and he leads a ceremony opening. Okay. He has an opening prayer that leads a ceremony. So I want to also talk about how in the individual journeys that I'm doing here and the ones I've done on myself, there's been, like, I've looked up certain tracks. So there's a certain track that I use, a certain sort of playlist, if you will, to help with the journey. And the first time I did this particular track, there is an opening that has a man's voice. He actually probably sounds Latino, actually, or Indian. And he is doing the same thing you did. In fact, what's even funny is that I had the calling of all the element of opening up all the east, west, south, north, all the directions in my wedding. Now I'm divorced, but at my wedding in Hawaii, that was one of our ceremonies. That's how we opened up my wedding ceremony, was with, okay. So there's this synergy of that. I've done this before, or this resonates with me. But when I did this one psilocybin journey, I heard the voice and thought, no, I don't want anybody else's voice right now. I don't want to be attached to anybody else's voice. So I skipped over that track, but then I did it the very last time I did a journey before I came to see you, because I sort of wanted to clear anything that was going on with me to be completely open and available and ready, with no expectation of what grandfather was going to teach me. Okay. Through San Pedro. So I did listen to that track, and it was very powerful when I did it. And then when I came to you, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like deja vu. I'm like, you're doing the same thing. It's like almost the same voice, except that we're missing the music, and now I'm live in person. And so it penetrated pretty well for me. It really was a great alignment, a way to start off. And so we had our ceremony, and then it was literally all day. So I think we got there. Well, I got there early, driving from Ojai to San Diego. Didn't want to be late. And so we get there, and we, probably around 11:30, maybe we took the medicine. And then,
yes.
I told you, just dose me the highest you could, like whatever you think is going to be the maximum for me. Because in my experience, this coming back and saying, hey, do you want more? Doesn't work. Like there's a peak. However, these medicines are very, very different. Psilocybin and San Pedro are very, very different medicines. And I just want to speak a little bit about that. I know you had experience with psilocybin. Yes? Cristhian?
Yes, many.
Okay. The kind that I have at the extract. So I think, and it doesn't, and I know the strain, I have it written somewhere, but it doesn't it acts different. I think it's not as much visual. There's a little bit of visual, but it's a lot more internal. So when you close your eyes, it's what's really going on. And it's sort of the depths that you get to open up, because the person who extracts it and chose this strand decided they didn't want people to be distracted with the visual. They wanted them to go in. This is medicine. The psilocybin is about really, I guess I can plainly say, it's almost like you dissolve into the earth. Like there's a grounding and a dissolution of your ego and of your everything. And when I did the last one and kind of crossed, if you will, like really, it's like dissolving all things. Now, so San Pedro, Christian leads this, and he does this often, and or does it regularly, I should say, and asked us to have an intention, to focus. And do you remember what mine was? I don't have to, you don't have to, but do you have it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry.
I just went through a few groups of 2 days and things like that. So
no worries. Yes.
but I do release everyone's intention, because at the end of the day, is the way I don't take on karma and I actually release it to a higher power, is that will be done. It's like, this is my request. I add, I move the energy, but at the end of the day, I turn it over to a much higher power, because that opens up the field of even more possibilities for you, more than I can even see and dream for you. So that's sort of how, like, I allow it to go to a step beyond me.
And a great way for you not to attach it to you. What I really liked about working with you and setting that intention was because I had sort of prepared myself by doing my own stuff to get to you, because I really did want a very specific, clean, no expectation journey. I had no direction. Like, I didn't come in with something necessarily. So you asked us to think about, and by the way, guys, I'll tell you that there was a woman and shout out to Becky and her mom. Her mother was 80. Do you remember how old she is? She's like in her 80s.
She was in her 80s, about mid 80s, I want to say. Yes.
Yeah. Her mom, 80 some year old woman. And I thought, and I said to her daughter, how did you get her to do it? She goes, it was her idea. I was like, well, you go, girl. And I asked her, and she said, yeah, I just think this will be very helpful to what I'm dealing with. And so, anyway, it's gentle enough, and you get the support, but we had to set intentions. So what I love about what you did is kind of what I do too. Like, so I'm on the same wavelength. Like, when people if I help to intuit a better way, or a deeper, more streamlined focus for somebody when they're sort of telling their story, or they're looking for things, I kind of bring it to like a one sentence. So what you helped me to find was, and what we discovered, so we're basically asking for guidance. And I said, grandfather, please show me how to embody my highest destiny.
Yes.
So whatever I had come up with, I said it. And then you sort of intuited something a little different. So you gave me two choices, and you told me the one, and I heard it. And then you told me the other one, I started crying. I'm like, okay, it's that one, because I started to cry. Like, I was crying already in the beginning, because I was feeling this excitement about uncovering or expanding in a new way. And just the idea of, none of this scares me. I was thinking about that today on our hike with Doug. For the people that like all of this stuff that I'm talking about, people that are listening to the show and have been for 6, 7, 8 years, they trust me, and they know that I'm a person of science, but I'm also a person of spirit. And so I do get people who are, they're more left-brained and a little more controlled. That's right. But I thought, right, I understand that you're afraid of letting go. You're afraid of losing control. But what does that mean to people? I have to ask you guys. So think about that. What does that mean when you know that you, like, these kind of plant medicines scare you because you don't want to lose control? What does losing control mean? You're going to cry? You're going to poop yourself? You're going to you're going to start yelling? Like, what do you think that means? Because in my mind, in a controlled environment, wouldn't that be like breaking loose of all that? Wouldn't that be a freeing, needed exploration of digging out and purging anything you're holding on to? So in my mind, I don't understand that. I don't understand. I understand the fear of I don't know. Okay. But if you know that you hold things, why wouldn't you invite something to free you? Don't you want that freedom? Don't you want to feel that trust, that allowing? So anyway, and maybe there are other stories that people have that I don't know about that makes them to have this. So we go through this process of identifying what we're going to focus on. Then we take the medicine, and then because it's literally all day, I got the opportunity to do all the things. I had the mask on. I was on a couch. I was inside. I was kind of cocooned. I was away from people. And then as we continued throughout the day, there was a moment later where we had some snacks, because you're supposed to fast, so that way you're on an empty stomach. And same thing with psilocybin. And but like the medicine lasted a long time. For me, psilocybin's maybe 4 to 6 hours, but this was 14 to 16 hours for me. And I think it was pretty much for everybody else. But throughout the process, Cristhian was right there. And that's why, again, I thanked you, and I really appreciate it. And I kept thanking you, I think, like multiple times,
You did.
for your attention, because in a smaller group like that, I got to get a lot of attention from you. You did a lot of clearings on me. You were with me often throughout the day, and you got to serve everybody and where everybody was. And there were points where people came together. I remember the last time we did a clearing on me outside in the grass, I asked all the women to come and support me, which isn't something that I would normally do, but I felt very strongly about it. I felt like I give this to people and now I want to receive it. And they didn't have to, but I invited them to come help me. And Christina sat with me and held my hand the whole time. And it was just a beautiful connection. And I actually found myself feeling like, and so here's the difference. So I told you that the psilocybin feels like you're being grounded and your ego dissolves and the veil dissolves between this world and non-physical energy. With San Pedro, I got to feel how to embody my highest destiny. Just keep doing what I'm doing, is to really embody what I think I bring to the world, which is high frequency, high vibration. And because I felt like I wasn't shaking, but I felt what the highest frequency feels like in every cell of my body. Like every cell of my body had white light beaming through it at such a high pace. It was such a high frequency, and it wasn't uncomfortable, but it was new. And I didn't know how to be in it. And I didn't know. And I thought I kept thinking it was going to go away. And I kept thinking it was going to calm down. And it didn't. And I was okay with that because it was about taking me to that next level of embodying my highest destiny. And I realized, and I tell you guys this all the time, but I really understood it more than I ever have before. Your value, your worth, who you are, if you're a conscious, truth-seeking, love, open-hearted person who leads with that and wants the best for you and others, and you live in that frequency, your beingness is enough to affect this planet. You don't have to do anything. If you live in that, you are radiating out to the collective energy of the world, a frequency that will lift everybody up. It's not going to work on everybody, but it's going to help collectively lift up our frequencies. So you are really, your value and your worth is really, you don't have to perform for love. You don't have to do anything. And in that moment, I was sitting there with Becky and with Christina, and I was like, I really get it. I really feel it. I go, my fucking presence on this planet is enough to help. I don't have to do anything. I'm going to do things. I'm going to continue the podcast. I'm going to continue to serve in ways because it's what I'm here to do, but I don't have to, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that this feeling that I have, this vibration that I'm feeling, this frequency that I know I am, because it's busting out of me at every turn, is how I embody my highest destiny. So we get to sort of the closing. Maybe it was the next day, or maybe it was that night. I think it was the next day, because we did a fire ceremony and we did a couple of different things. But when we kind of closed out the next morning, was it before breakfast or after breakfast?
It was after breakfast.
Right. It was after breakfast and after grounding our energies. I said to Christian, because he talked about this shamanic school, and I thought, and normally I like to learn. I'm like, oh, I can learn that. Oh, I can learn that. Oh, I want to go do that. And I sat there being very clear. I'm like, no, I'm not saying I would never go and do that. Maybe it's in my future, but right now I'm a channel. Right now I'm the connector. I'm the bridge. I'm the person that goes, oh, I have an audience of people who trust me and listen to me and watch me grow and are inspired by that. And I can bring them to you. And I'm clear on our roles. You can guide them in those ways that you guide them, in the ways that I was called to and I was led to be with you. And I get to help people get there. And I'm clear on that. I get to be the educator. I get to be the one which I already do. I make law of attraction scientific for people. I make woo-woo left brain for people. And they go, oh, now I understand, because I connect those things. And so I'm the connector, I'm the bridge. I'm also the encourager, and I'm also going to be the one who's going to be the example for you. So it was such a different experience, and it was such an awakening experience. And I really got that answered, how to embody my highest destiny. And it was a confirmation. It was a validation, and it was amazing. I mean, all parts of the whole thing were amazing. Every single person that was there, everything that happened was divinely inspired. And I couldn't have been more appreciative and grateful that it ended up exactly the way that it did. Mm-hmm. And so then I left there and I messaged Christian, and I was like, I would love to help you. I would love to help people get here and to do this and to have this experience. So we have been talking about doing a combined event. And I think we're shooting for end of February right now. For a select amount of people, probably about 10 would probably feel about good. What do you think?
Yeah, we can take about 10, 14 people.
Okay, so between 10 and 15 people. And it would be a little bit of me and a little bit of him. Well, it'd be more him, but more him on that day. But it would be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I would be on with you on Friday to kind of prepare and do some emotional work. Because here's what and I'm not saying you don't do this because you do this, Christian, but there are a lot of people that are experimenting with psychedelics and plant medicines, and they're doing the thing and they're having that experience, but they're not integrating the work. They're not integrating the work, and they're not going in knowing why they're doing it, or what's going to be the benefit. What am I looking for? What is my intention? And it's not that you, depending on which, plant medicine you're using, you definitely can't go in with the medicine with psilocybin and say, I would like to focus on this. No, that's not how that works. You go, thank you. And now you're in charge, and you're going to show me what I need to learn. But when it comes to directing this and really knowing who you really are and being able to get all the things, I mean, tell everybody what you did for me, on me, while I was in this, because you did different things.
Yes, of course. So I want to backtrack a little bit just to talk about the ceremony itself and the plan, because a lot of people always ask me this question, and the thing about, in order to have a ceremony, we need three things. The first thing is the container, and this is why we invoke the forces of creation. Our ancestors, the word anima, right? The shamanic path is an animation path, because when you animate things, they have soul, because anima means soul. So when we're calling the archetypes of the jaguar or the eagle, our ancestors didn't have work for gravity, right? So we call it Pachamama, it's Mother Earth. And so when you animate these principles, they come alive, and then they hold the sacred space for us. And we invite all of our protectors and guardians and ancestors and everyone that needs to be there for our highest healing. So that's the step one. And so that's why I have created my prayer invocation for you to receive as a gift. If you are curious about signing up, I know JJ is going to post that for you, so you will have that. And I would recommend, if you're ever at home and you decide, hey, I need to take a little journey, right? Always make sure you light a candle and you open sacred space, because that allows you to step from your particle aspect to the wave state, to the field of all possibilities. Then the second is the medicine, right? As Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about, the environment, internal and external, affect the proteins, and it changes us. So I source my medicine from Peru, from very trusted medicine men and women over there that prepare, honors the cactus, and they get it from the sacred mountains as well from the valleys that grow near the sacred temples, because they live there. And so this is the energy that comes with that medicine. This is the environment, the ancient sites where all the ancestors of the lineage prayed and made offerings for hundreds of years. So that's where the medicine comes from. And that's why it's very important as a medicine person to know where your medicine is coming from. And I love that, you have a specific strain too, JJ, when working with your medicine. That's one of it's a very important. And the third one is the intention, right? And one of the things that I always share in these ceremonies is like, your intention is not just for the ceremony. You should be very intentional about your life. What is your intention when you wake up for your day? What is your intention before a meeting? What is your intention for your children, for your family? Don't let yourself become a leaf in the wind. Be that tree. Anchor yourself. Set an intention for every single thing. Look for the outcome that you want, right? And so when you go with these three aspects of the ceremony, your lenses get colored by it. And then I always say, ask for what you want, because with this plan, what's going to happen is everything that is in the way of that, you're going to have to work through. And it does help to have someone not only that can hold the container, but also knows how to move and clear these energies permanently. Now, all of that is going to be shown to you, but you want to ask for what you want. Because at the end of the day, I do get a lot of clients that come and say, I want to know what all my fears are. And I always said, and then what? Because you're asking to be taken there, but you're not going to get past that. So be very careful when you set an intention in any type of setting that you are. Okay. Ask for what you want. Don't worry about what the fears are, what the shadows are. Those will be shown, because you have to work through that to get to what you want. And this is why I love and appreciate this medicine, because it's gentle, but it opens your sacred heart, and it connects you through everything, you realize at some point that creation is not outside of you or going around you, that you are part of creation. And when you really embody this, not just hearing it through a book, when you get the experience of this, every cell in your body receives that. And when you can be reconnected with the flow of life and know that you are a part of it, now you have the power to influence it and change it. But that's step one. Now, this plant opens up new neural pathways, it's scientifically proven, it changes it permanently. And it opens up those connections and your cells to receive whatever your intention is. Many people come to work on self-love. They ask the grandfather to show them self-love or non-judgment or how to be in sacred relationship with their partners. You know, you can come and work on your power, but the words make a difference because taking JJ's intention of embodying her highest destiny, for instance, right? You would have had a completely different experience if you would have said, show me, right? Because one thing is seeing it and another thing is embodying it, because then you receive it at the frequency. And that's the gift of the grandfather. It allows you to feel whatever it is that you're asking for in every cell in your body, gives you access to that. Now, we're powerful creators, right? Because we can make ourselves sick and miserable by remembering something that happens to us 20 years ago, because the mind doesn't understand the concept of time. To the mind and the body, if you go and revisit that time and space where somebody hurt you or you receive trauma, you're reliving it again. So you're making it even bigger and you continue to make yourself sick. And what I love about this plant is like it creates a pocket of space where you can access that new frequency, what that highest destiny feel like, and you can close your eyes and take yourself to that moment. And the more you practice feeling that in your body, the more it's going to become a part of you and you're going to integrate it a lot faster. It's nothing that you need to think about or do. Now, with JJ, as we were working through through many things, so for JJ, we did a lot of work, but you know, as we move through this work, we release it. So I try not to recall so many things, but I do recall from the clearing that we did was that I found an energy that was walking with her, and I believe it was a family member. And so in that process, what I do is I release the soul of the person. We do death rites in the traditional way that we were taught. And this is very important because a lot of times, you know, this is a process that I use for many things. Sometimes it's to expedite your process. I do sort of like a shamanic death for someone that is completely lost, and we use it that way. So everything that needs to die about you, we create a ceremony and we send it out and we re-put you in your body. Other ways that I have seen, you know, this process be so effective is a lot of times clients come with an energy, you know, of a family member that died of cancer or some sort of condition, and now they're developing the same symptoms. So it's very important to allow that person their peace. You know, we do a ceremony to honor and give them permission to go. And in allowing these energies to release, what happens is that whatever symptoms they were being downloaded from the other energy completely vanish. And I have seen this many times. So it's a powerful tool that I use. It's another way of doing an extraction for family members or friends that may be still walking around here with us. And going further into that, after clearing that energy, we did an ancestral clearing for JJ, and we were clearing a lot of her fears and resistances and whatever else was in the way for the fulfillment of her intention. So whatever else was blocking her from allowing her to fully connect and experience that radiance, that feeling of her highest destiny to carry her, right? Because in this path, we don't believe in earning things, right? Yes, you have to take inspired action and hard action. But the way we work here with the empowerments, with many things, is we throw a core of light into that destiny, into that possibility for you so that you can begin to source from it. So that now all your actions are being pulled by that. Instead of swimming up the stream, we want the current to pull you up, right? I know like when I went through my Catholic school and doing all those rites and initiations like baptism and stuff. You have to first you have to learn how to do that. You have to study it. It's almost like you have to earn it before you get the sacrament. And this traditions is the opposite, because we want the energetics and everything else to support you and guide you and teach you, not just by words, but also energetically, so that you can begin to integrate and become that a lot faster in this moment.
Perfect segue into one of the slides from Dr. Bruce Lipton that we were both at, that I will probably try to post on Instagram when I publish this podcast. So basically, he outlined how you can reprogram your subconscious mind, which is what we're talking about. And he listed 4 things: hypnosis and subliminal programs, which I recommend all the time and use and put in all the things I do when I work with people. Habit and mindfulness. So that's obviously my majority of things, is helping people to change their habit and their mindfulness in terms of the work that I'm doing in the world. Super learning, energy psychology, which we're both doing. Some of this is considered energy psychology, but what's really the most important part about what we're talking about today with plant medicine and sacred journeys is a major life experience. And he put in quotations spiritual, having a major life experience. So here's how I look at it. If you're struggling with anything, you may have a major life experience, but it won't be on your terms. It will, and it might be really super uncomfortable. So when you can induce a major life experience in a spiritual awakening on your terms, right, I think that it's going to result in faster healing and opening and manifesting of whatever it is that you're searching for. And that's what this becomes. Rather than continuing to know that you're stubborn or that you have control and you're unwilling to change your behaviors or your the beliefs, and you keep having the same triggers and you've been doing it for years. That's why this medicine has been used and is being used currently to help with trauma, PTSD, and addiction, is because it breaks the cycle. It opens up different neural pathways in the brain. It creates neuroplasticity quickly, right? Very quickly. Now, whether it lasts and those stay strengthened, just like exercise, like if you were going to go do exercise and you'd be really sore the next day, okay, but you're not going to get the benefit necessarily long-term if we don't practice keeping those pathways open. You get the learning and the teaching from the experience, and now it's your job to maintain that in however way you're directed and guided to change your life. And but it's a supercharged, super powerful way to get some change and to, again, get some learnings, and then of course to get some support. And that's why I did it with Cristhian, because I felt very comfortable and trusting about the support that I would get when I was there. I felt ridiculously supported. I got to sort of do whatever I wanted to do, whatever I was being called to do, and then anything in between being attended to was great. And I'm excited to offer this to you guys, to do something where we combine our forces for good, where we look at the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? Where we take the work, when we go into it, we have the experience, and then we live it, and we figure out what these lessons are and how life has to change. So I want to, as we wrap up today, Cristhian will be back, I promise. But I wanted to just start this conversation with all of you and see who might be interested in joining us at the end of February for a weekend in San Diego. But I wanted to also mention, there was a word that came to me that I probably didn't say earlier. I think some of the energy that I felt was Kundalini energy. So but it was on steroids, Kundalini energy. So in a good way. So for those of you that have experienced Kundalini energy, that is what I think was flowing through me, and then some. So that's a way for you to potentially understand what I was feeling physically if you've experienced that. So again, Cristhian has actually 2 things, and I actually think I want to offer them both things, Cristhian, because for those that are, like you said, doing their own journeys, or again, I want to use it, and I want to use it here with people that come to do a one-on-one with me, a VIP, is you're opening the sacred space, because it's beautiful and it sets the tone, and it allows us to, again, create a sacred intention and to be present in our bodies and to ask and to call in all the guidance and support that we need. So for some of you that aren't doing any of this, that you can listen to it, you can download it, but you won't necessarily glean the benefit of it if you're not creating any kind of sacred ceremony yourself. But the other thing that you have, why don't you talk about quickly the other gift that you have, because I'd love them to experience you in another way that doesn't have to do with any of this necessarily, so they can just get the benefit of you.
Of course, of course. And actually, I would encourage you, before doing this other gift, to play and open the sacred directions. Now, I would not say 100% that you wouldn't reap the benefits, because one of the practices one of my mentors had for me was, He said, when you go home, open sacred space every day in your house and close it, or you can leave it open. If you do that for 30 days, your life is going to change
Oh,
because the energetics of your home are going to be different. You're going to change from particle state, which is linear, right? It can only go in one direction, to the wave state, the infinite possibilities. So nothing is wasted. Everything is medicine.
I sit corrected. Please use it every day. I'm going to do it now.
So, and the second gift that I have is a shamanic journey to retrieve a destiny for you, a possible destiny that may be available for you. And the last thing I wanted to say is everything matters. You know, every meditation, every decision that you make puts forth momentum towards something different. And the difference between doing this in linear time is like we're bound by this physical, you know, it's much harder to shift things here. And that's why we take everything to the energetics. We take it to the level of ego, the spirit and soul, where everything, that energy has not become physical yet. So it's much easier to shift there with a lot less energy. And that's why we go there to make the shifts. And then the physical world has no choice but to rearrange itself to your vibration, to your frequency. So the way I do my shadow work is like, when things are not going my way, there's something in here that needs to be shifted. It's not out there, it's in here. And so, and that's when I use my tools. You know, I open sacred space. Maybe I sit with my mesa. Maybe I meditate. Maybe I do an entrainment video. But it is a beautiful practice. And so with this destiny retrieval journey, you're going to journey. And I don't want to say too much about it because I want you to have an experience. But first, open the sacred space. And then they go into this guided shamanic journey that is going to allow you to connect deeper with your infinite self and your celestial self and receive the gifts that are available for you. Because if you're here and you're watching this, you know, first of all, I commend you because you've been doing the work. And that is the reason why you're coming across all of these tools. And thank you, JJ, for being that bridge, because just like my mentor told me, he said, hey, listen, you're a bridge too, because you will be able to reach people that I cannot. Or the shamans from Peru, right? There's so many military people. There's so many people that have had your path, right? And that's the work of the shamanic path. You help and guide and create a sacred space for people to heal those things that you have gone through yourself, and you're on the other side. You have the software, the upgrade, the new version, and you download it into them. And that's the gift that keeps on giving.
So you have to know that I'm deep in the medicine. It's the end of the day. They want to go to bed. And I'm like, what? Let's start dancing, everybody. Like I'm vibrating high. I'm feeling good. And and then I play for Christian that opening the sacred space. And I said, do this. I want you to do this. I want your voice. I want it to be you. It'll mean more to me. I want you to record this. And then we're going to give it to people. And then anyone that goes and has your experience, you can give it to them so they can continue with your energy, helping them to uncover anything that's remaining from that ceremony to keep evolving and to keep expanding. So, so thank you for doing that. It's beautiful and gorgeous. And I can't wait to do it every day now. So I love that you just corrected me on that. So everyone, please do that. And I'm looking forward to doing the other one as well. And, you know, of course, reach out to Christian, find him. He's on Instagram. All his links will be in the show notes if you want to start working with him today, or you want to get to him faster than when I'm going to be doing the thing together. But I'd love to know, for those of you that are interested in coming to work with us in person together collectively from a Friday to a Sunday, and you can stay a little bit longer. Of course, you can come in earlier if you want. We can talk about that. And doing that again at the end of February-ish. So I would love to know if that resonates. Thank you, Christian, so much. I know we'll be talking again, and I really appreciate our time today. And I'm so happy I get to share you with the world.
Thank you so much, JJ. You know, I feel infinitely grateful to have met you, and that we are in each other's lives. I feel so blessed, and thank you for everything that you're doing for the world and all the energy and effort, you know, because I do know what it takes to do all of that and how sacred that is to put yourself out there and be vulnerable for the betterment of our planet. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're all on the same team. We want to see a bigger place for humanity in which we can hold each other in love and compassion and really dream a new world into being, unplugging from the nightmare, from the fear, from that bleeds and leads, and actually use our energy in a more powerful way in the collective so that we may create the world that we want our children's children to inherit. And for me, for as long as we have breath, we still have the energy to shift, no matter what fear, food, or whatever they're putting out there of what's going to happen. I promise you that if you unplug from that and you begin to use your energy wisely to create that which you want to see in the world, we're going to go in a different direction. But we need everyone on board right now. Thank you, JJ, for having me here.
And so it is. I forgot to mention the link. The link very quickly is jjflazanes.com/shaman. jjflazanes.com/shaman. Again, all links will be in the show notes. And I thank you, Cristhian.
Thank you.